we take a closer look at the RYOBI ONE+ 18-volt polisher. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. This is the RYOBI model number PBF100, and it is their 5-inch Random Orbital or dual action polisher. Now, it's part of their ONE+ 18-volt lineup, so it runs on their 18-volt batteries. But is it ready for the pro? Does it have enough pro features on it? And is the performance there for the professional, or is it just a DIY or weekender type tool? We'll get to the bottom of that in just a moment. In fact, let's dive in. We'll take a closer look at each one of these features. Then we're going to let the pros use it, as well as we're going to use it in-house, give you our feedback as well, give you Chase's feedback from Michael's Auto Detailing. Then we'll come back and we'll wrap this all up. This is the RYOBI PBF100, and it is their Random Orbital or dual action polisher. Runs a 5-inch pad on here, or 125 millimeter. I think they claim 127 millimeters. So 5 inches basically. It comes with this D-ring handle here, but most professionals are probably going to use this without a handle on here. But if you want to put the handle on, you can most certainly do so. But it's also set up with the nub up here on the front that you can easily hold that with your secondary hand to be able to control the tool very easily. Instead of a trigger, it does not have a trigger switch. It's got a slide lock switch here. So you can see here, that takes a little to get used to if you've ran grinders before, even some other polishers. Some of them have this, so it's a little just kind of muscle memory to get used to it, because you're really not just sliding it forward because you'll kind of lock out. You have to push down in the back, slide it forward, and rock it forward, and then it locks into place, and so you can do all your polishing. And to shut it off, you can just push down here on the back, and you hear it click, and it's spring loaded, so it'll easily pop back out of place and turn off. So it is a slide lock switch. The power dial, or the speed dial here, is right here on this one side. Sometimes in these polishers, you'll get a dial that kind of passes through to the other side, that you can see it from both sides. In this case, it does not, and max is 7,500. That's not RPMs, that's orbits per minute, or OPMs. So max is 7,500 and low is 3,000. So you can set that wherever you need to, and again, turn that slide switch on to be able to activate the tool. You get a positive click stop here in the top side, not in the bottom, but you can hear that click. I'm not sure if that's really doing anything, or it's maybe just a detent to lock out at the high end. It comes with the yellow pad, which would basically be your medium. Your fine polish is going to be your gray, and then your aggressive or cutting pad will be your maroon pad. So that'll be your heavy cut compound, will be the maroon, and then again for your fine polishes, the gray, and then probably your most used will be the yellow pad. And again, those are 5-inch pads. Now up here at the top, you kind of have a speed guide to let you know of you know what it's used for. It says finishing, correcting, and cutting. Not so sure that I'd go by that, but it just gives you kind of an idea of what you're doing as to what speeds you'll be using, or the low range, high range, and so forth. Now the tool comes, you see these bumper pads here, which is nice. So when you're on the hood of a vehicle, you can set it upside down or right side up. And even with a battery on there, it's really not contacting the vehicle surface. It's riding on those rubber feet there and protecting that finish of that vehicle, so that the battery's not hitting on there and hurting the paint. I'd still recommend having a microfiber under there if you've got a polisher on the car anyway, but that does have the rubber feet on front and back, up and bottom. Now let's get a weight on this tool, and I'm going to weigh it with the 6 amp hour battery, because that's how we used it. Just to give you a reference, so 5 pounds, 14.5 ounces, almost 6 pounds with the 6 amp hour battery. And just to give you an idea, with a 4 amp hour battery, which you're going to really limit your run time with a 4 amp hour, now you're down to 5 pounds, 8 ounces. So you're knocking, what, 6.5 ounces off, almost a half a pound by going to a 4 amp hour battery. But I think probably that 6 amp hour is probably going to be the best go-to for this. Going to give you that longer extended run time. So again, almost 6 pounds with the 6 amp hour battery. And then length on this, you're looking at from handle to the end of the battery, 17.5 inches. So with the 6 amp hour battery, 17.5 inches, or without the battery, you're looking at right at 15 inches without the battery from the tip of the handle to the butt of the tool. One thing that is nice is the rake in the handle there keeps that battery off the surface. As you see here, once the pad's level, that little rake in the battery, or that rake in the handle, keeps that snout of the battery from contacting the surface or even coming close. And you'll see a lot of times on battery powered polishers, it really becomes a nice place to just kind of cradle the tool right here on the bottom of the battery to keep that off the vehicle surface as well. But it just becomes a nice handle as well to kind of guide the tool also. Is that your first time doing that?
Yeah, man. I heard about this. I think that's how you're supposed to do it.
A little's good and a lot's better.
Extra seasoned.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what we got here. Let's start 3,800, or we got 3,000 to 7,500. So start low and work it in. That's a little interesting key. It wasn't doing a whole lot of rotation. It was just kind of barely orbiting back and forth when I had it at about, I think we had it about somewhere between 4,800 and 5,800, but once you turn it all the way up and it clicks, it's on a constant rotation.
So it doesn't stall when you get it wide open?
Nope, not when it's wide open. It does when it's anything under that, I think, at least so far. We'll find out here. So I just got an interesting, I guess I should have paid attention, huh? It literally tells you up here what's finishing, correcting, and cutting. So I guess that makes a little bit of sense of why it doesn't start doing any type of solid rotation until 6,800, because that's exactly what it says where cutting starts, so interesting. So you've got to slide this up, yeah, and get it to actual click in. decent power to it. It's a little bit loud and noisy, but the polisher itself is pretty smooth in your hand, but it is, in my opinion, excessively loud.
Is it just the tone?
Yeah, got a pretty high-pitched tone to it. That's, especially when you're wide open, it's got some, could be a bit annoying if you're doing any type of extensive polishing for sure. So we've done almost half the hood. We're down a cell.
That's a 6 amp hour battery?
Yeah. We're just doing a nice light polish. I'm just using a primer polish. This is something I would do if this was kind of my either last step before I was laying down protection, or I was just kind of trying to do a nice all-in-one. I don't think it has enough power to do any type of actual hardcore correction. I think it's definitely a decent machine for just doing some light polishing or some all-in-one and stuff like that. But unless you're at least at 6,800 and anything above, it's not doing enough rotation for it to actually do some decent correction. The slide's a little tricky to get going to turn the machine on, but turning it off is super easy. As for this one though, out of all my battery powered stuff, battery placement for the backhand is pretty solid.
So that was one thing I was going to say.
Yes.
So that kick down doesn't bother you?
Not at all. I actually like
Okay.
it.
So
Yeah.
and it's not the angle of the
Yes.
angle that puts it away.
Yeah, it's that, but it's when you're out far away from you, it makes it much easier to control with your back hand. You can almost, if you need to take that front hand off, you can kind of guide it pretty well with just the back part of that
So
battery.
it's not bothering you that bad?
Not at all. No, sir. Guys might want to ignore this paint. Its owner, he's not the best. So we did a whole hood, obviously just doing some light polish, down one cell.
Okay.
So, and I was never, once I actually started going, was never under 6,800 at any time. So we were pretty much almost wide open at all times. So not bad.
So in first looking at this, the slide lock switch, I think is going to be something that I'm not crazy about. I would rather see a trigger on this. And another thing is the dial, very easy to read from this side, but you can't read it from this side, so you're looking at just your thumb being able to do it. Sometimes those dials are two-sided, make it a lot easier to access. The handle is a nice placement, seems to be very comfortable. We'll use that here in a moment and find out. I'm going to start at about 4,800. And I'm just using some decent polish, some well-known polish. So you'll see right away. So first thing, I've got it at 4,800. I believe that's oscillations per minute or orbits, not RPMs. And at 4,800, you can see my pad here. It's stalled. It's not spinning at all. I've hardly got any pressure on it at all. So that's barely touching, and I'm orbiting. That's already stalled. So I'm not cutting or anything. All I'm doing is got a light polish on there, and I've stalled the pad. So I don't like that, so let me bump it up here. It looks like it went down a little bit anyway. So I'm gonna go to 6,800. Okay, that's better. So you see I'm getting in orbit, but look, I can stall it again. Okay, that's doing decent. But again, you can see that I'm stalling that pad, meaning it's not rotating anymore, because we want both the oscillations as well as the rotations around it as well. So this is some old checked up paint, but it is cleaning it up decently. It's working pretty well as long as I have the oscillations up. Let me turn this all the way up. Get some more on my pad here. This paint's in pretty rough shape. So I've got it turned all the way up. So turned all the way up, it's got a little bit of power. It's not really bogging, but I can definitely stall that pad even in high. So I'm getting rotations there. So that's not too bad. But there's where I can actually stall that pad. Not a big fan of that slide switch, as I thought. It's a little funky getting it locked in. You got to push it down here, slide it up, and then lock it in. Now turning it off, you just basically bump the bottom. I would just rather see a trigger there. But again, the power's decent. You can definitely stall the pad pretty easy. So for correcting, I don't think this is going to be an option at all. If you were trying to correct with it, you wouldn't be happy with it. And the orbit, they really don't tell us the orbit. I believe it's less than 8 millimeters. And then the speed dial, very easy to use, but I really don't think this is usable as a polisher. Maybe a wax applicator would be fine under 5,000 RPMs or 5,000 OPMs. But I really think using this, and by the way, there's a definite click at the top there. Not sure if that's doing something like telling it it's wide open or what that is. So does the RYOBI PBF100 polisher meet the requirements of a pro? No, we don't think so. I don't think so. Chase over at Michael's Auto Detailing doesn't think so either. It just really doesn't have the features, and more importantly, doesn't have the performance to really get through a pro's day. As a professional, you're going to need paint correction. This is going to really struggle at doing paint correction. Now, will it do easy polish jobs or just a polish job on your own vehicle? Sure, it will do that, and it'll do that pretty easily. Again, if you're above that 5,000 oscillations per minute threshold, 5,500, 6,000, and up to the 7,500 max, it does pretty well. It actually lays down the power pretty well, and it doesn't stall too easy when you're at the max, but you can get the pad to stall, especially when you're rolling over a contour. That's one thing you need to watch. Watch that pad, make sure it's continuing to spin while it's oscillating as well. That's going to tell you whether that pad's going to work for you or whether that polisher is going to work for you. Now let's also look at price on this. That's another thing. Usually with RYOBI, I like their price point. I like their marketing. They're typically focused on that DIYer and that entry-level pro, and usually their price is accordingly to that or according to that. Now when you look at this is $199 without a battery or a charger. So as you see it, you get it with 3 pads, the polisher, and the handle for $199. Now you get a 3-year warranty with that, but still at $200 for a bare tool, you're really getting up there into pro level land, if you will. So the fact that somebody would still have to go out and buy a battery, buy a charger, or buy batteries and a charger, that's putting that price quite a bit up there and really into that pro level category, yet it's not pro level quality, if you will. Now, if you already have the RYOBI platform, you already have batteries, and you're looking for something to polish your car on the weekends or to polish your classic car to get it ready for a car show, hey, great system for you. Why not? It makes sense to buy the polisher. You've already got the batteries. It's going to do well for you. Talking about batteries, talking about runtime, RYOBI states that with a 9 amp hour battery, you can get 2 hours runtime or a full car. Well, this is a 9 amp hour battery. Here's a 6 amp hour battery we were running on the polisher. This is a big battery, and it's an expensive battery. Now, I will tell you that in the polishing we ran about a half a battery on doing a side of a truck and the hood of a full-size SUV. So you could probably get by of polishing, doing a light polish on an entire vehicle with a 6 amp hour battery. However, most of the time when we're dealing with cordless polishers, we typically recommend have at least 2 batteries. So you can have one on the charge while you're polishing, and then once that one dies, you can swap those out, put it on the charger, put the new battery on, and you can keep going. So that's typically what we like to recommend for a polisher. So not only do you need a battery, but you need batteries and a polisher. So again, and a charger. So again, that's kind of putting that price back up there. So that's why we're saying this is really not the greatest tool for that professional. There's other tools out there that are going to do a better job, even at the same price point. But again, if you're in the RYOBI platform, hey, great tool for you. Be sure to check it out. It's the PBF100. You can find it at your local Home Depot or at homedepot.com. Also, would you keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter? Would you give us that thumbs up and even hit that like and subscribe button, but only if you liked our video. If you hated our video, by all means, give us that thumbs down, but would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.